Thank you very much, Amir Jan.
Yeah,
That
thanks.
was great. Very interesting topic to
Yeah,
study, and you were probably the best person to discuss the topic. Um, I know that you attend many of these festivals. You are running one of these in Toronto, so you were talking uh, with first-hand experience on this
yeah,
topic. So thank you very much, and it was very interesting to me the way you theorized the concept of canonization of films versus the marginalization of other films, and how this politics of festival circuits has a great role in this area. So now I also would like to take the opportunity to thank the host of this session, um, collaborating with the University of Toronto, and that's York Center for Asian Research and the Department of Languages, Literatures and Linguistics at York University. The floor is open for questions. If anyone out there would like to ask Amir questions, please either raise your hand or type it in the chat, and I can read your questions. While we are waiting for questions, maybe I can ask you a question.
yeah,
Um, so you were talking about this issue of eventually you concluded that the way movies, or at least Iranian movies, are included in film festivals. You thought that it's not based on politics, right?
yeah. Yes, yes, it's not based on policies in the sense that they would say that, for example, we want a film that be critical of Iranian regime. We would,
Oh,
if
yes. Yeah.
make such kind of films, it would be included. Yeah, they would look at policies in more complex way.
In a more
Uh,
manner.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and they want to see nuance, and they want to see the complexity in the films. They want, and but they will surely, uh, because they are, they will surely take more serious a film which present a good case to criticize an injustice that, for example, that exists in Iranian society. If filmmakers make film about capital punishment, and if they make it in a very good way, they would certainly consider it. And it is not only uh, related to the Iran. If filmmakers in China, even if filmmakers in US, make a good film about capital punishment, they will consider it. So the values that they are trying to look at are the value of universal value, the value of human rights. They are looking for those kind of values, and if they see that filmmakers in any kind of country somehow create something in relationship to those values, they will consider it important. In Iran, maybe because these rights are not respected in many cases. They are many of basic rights are being are being neglected. So filmmakers have more a story to tell,
Mhm.
have more first-hand experience to say. For example, while filmmakers in Sweden might not have experience of, for example, capital punishment, because capital punishment doesn't exist in that country. But in Iran, it exists, and filmmakers could see the real cases and could tell a story based on their personal observation. And the festival will take it seriously.
Yeah. And despite what you're um, explaining to us, it seems like, at least for 2 decades or so, between late 1980s to early 2010s, there was a more emphasis on movies that are known to at least the local audiences of Iran as apolitical movies. They were the movies that were selected in international film festivals. And more specifically, if I want to make examples, movies by Abbas Kiarostami or earlier movies by Jafar Panahi. Those movies were more, they had a more poetic, realist sort of vibe, and they weren't seen as political movies, right? Or
Yeah, it appears yes the trend is before 2010, as you mentioned, was more towards film with more humanistic messages, films about childs, films about life or everyday life. But maybe from 2010 onwards, it's becoming more political, especially because of Jafar Panahi's situation, Rasulov, what's happened to Rasulov, and filmmakers like who made films that couldn't get screened in Iran. Maybe they started to pay more attention to those kind of filmmakers, and this is also the transition that happens in the works of filmmakers, as you mentioned. Panahi also becoming more interested in making political films in still in relationship to the way that they use cinematic tools.
yes, I think Professor Tawakoli is also, he is going to
Yeah.
ask the question.
Thank you. Dr. Ganjavi, thank you very much for your thoughtful presentation. What I found particularly interesting is sort of your autobiographical take on that as a person who has been directly involved in organizing film festivals in Toronto and the kind of pressures that you have faced. So the question that I have, as it relates to the Iranian diasporic community, do you think the pressure that an organizer of a film festival, Iranian film festival, faces, does the pressure on an Iranian Canadian is the same as one who has nothing to do with Iran? So do you think the kind of pressure that you face, or people like you who are organizing Iranian film festivals, is it different from non-Iranian?
Yeah, I totally feel that the pressure is completely different. I remember that we had one-time conversation about Majidi, if we could have his film at the festivals or not. And for many people, it was not possible because he was considered as a pro-government filmmaker, and everybody told if we bring him, there will be lots of problems and community pressure. The same filmmakers went to Venice last year, and he participated, and he had a red carpet, stuff like that, and there was none of this kind of pressure on the festival organizer, on the community. They look at Majidi's film as a kind of artist, so they were not talking about, for example, if the film was funded by Iranian government, was funded by people close to leader to Khomeini or stuff like that. And I asked this question specifically from different film programmers and festival directors, if they had ever heard, or if anybody came to them and complained to them about why you picked these filmmakers. And most of them told me no, they didn't have any kind of issue with this, and they my question was even very strange for them, because they felt that they should look at film as a kind of art in itself, and they should not think about who funded the project and where comes the finance of the film. And they didn't feel any kind of pressure upon their shoulder to want to answer to this kind of questions. So when you are non-Iranian and when you are organizing an event like that, there is zero pressure on you. There is or minimal pressure on you. But as soon as you become an Iranian and you want to do this kind of activities, people are starting to making ridiculous connection between what we are doing and their political opinion about Iran, and they are trying to insult or try to accuse you of different things. And this is, I think, something which is very problematic and makes life very difficult when you want to promote and when you love something, when you have a passion for something, and you are surrounded by people who are not from intellectual or academic background, and they all see things just black and white, and they are just accused you because you are an Iranian, but they don't see the same things to a non-Iranian.
So what is the nature of these accusations? How are they articulated? Do they become highly, in a sense, personal, or what?
Yeah,
I want to understand the nature of this pressure that someone like you has faced.
Yeah, it's becoming very personal sometimes. Because they think that, for example, if you select a film by Majidi, or if you select a film by the filmmakers that they don't approve, they are sometimes wanted to promote Islamic regime here, and we are working for Ministry of Intelligence in Iran, and you will tell them that he's working with Ministry of Intelligence because he brings these films, or he are introducing these films in his festival. So very childish mentality like this. Or they will say that how for example, how he could rent, how thief for his festivals, he could rent it because of Iranian government was supportive of him. But everybody knows that you could easily rent any location in Toronto, and you don't need Iranian government support to rent a location. So they are trying to start stories or making accusations, personal accusations, trying to defamations, and this is something very problematic. They even sometimes, for example, call your sponsors, try to make them less interested to work with you, or try to get connection with people who are trying to come to your festivals and try to accuse you of different things. So it's very unfortunately very unprofessional and unkind attitude of Iranians, especially here.
Just a follow-up question, and I hope you don't mind it. You refer to it as childish, but it seems like the people who are making these assertions think of themselves as be politically brilliant, because they can see connections that everyday Mo and Joe cannot see, right?
Yeah, that's a good, because the problem, as you mentioned, is that sometimes they think they are very smart, and they are making for example, if they see that you had a picture with somebody, they will go make a connection between this picture and the film that you try to bring to the festivals, and they will try to say that two unrelated things are sometimes related to each other, and they are creating stories based on this, and as you said, they feel that they are very smart. I'm saying childish because I'm very interested in critical theory, and in a critical theory, it is very important to consider a phenomenon from many perspectives. If you watch, for example, a movie, even if it is sponsored by Iranian government, there are many layers that you need to consider when you want to analyze that film, to realize if it is it should be considered as a kind of ideological film or not. For me, because film is a product of many people, it is not only product of the result of who get funded the project. it is the director, it is actor, it is the writer, it is cinematographer. Everybody could interfere or could do something to the final result, and the final result could be interpreted very intelligently. And and this is something that I learned from Frederick Jameson when he talks about capitalism, and when he reads or look at, for example, Hollywood films, he tries to see the complexity. He didn't say that because they are capitalists, they are produced by Hollywood films, they are films of just for operation. He tries to, even Gramsci tries to make us reflect about the complexity behind the issues. This kind of critical conversation about Iranian films, you can't see them outside of Iran, especially among the diaspora. Maybe because they are not very much in the university, and they see things very black and white, and as you mentioned, they think that this is, if you want to talk about complexity, they would say that, okay, he tries to trick us. The real issue is something different, and he brings something totally different, or makes things complex. But also, this is a very simple things, that these are films produced by Iranian government, and the Iranian governments want to support. So this is these are the kind of issues that you are facing constantly when you are trying to promote Iranian films and you are an Iranian.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you very much. And I see two hands also raised. Dr. Atal Bagheri, I think you were first.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Amir Jan, for your great lecture. We have the same kind of problems in Paris for cultural program about Iran. So don't worry, everywhere is the same. But we are doing what you have to do, isn't it? So my question is about famous festivals. I want to know, what do you think about the recent desire of famous festivals for Iranian women destiny? Example, movies like Nahid or Inversion, Varunegi. It seems to me that nowadays, if they have for example, very artistic film about an old man, and in the other hand, they have a film less artistic, but about a woman destiny, they will choose the second one. What do you think about that?
That's a very great question, Asajan. In fact, I asked the same question from everybody that I was in touch. I want to know if there is a gender policy, if there is a kind of quota that they will consider for selecting Iranian films or not. Interestingly, the response I had was that we, at a general level, we have some concern that we need to have a kind of balance in terms of films from Iranian filmmakers and male Iranian women and in terms of balance in terms of male to female. But we don't want to use this criteria for different regions. We don't want to say that, for example, if you select two films from Iran, one should be from male and one should from female, because we know that in some regions it is more still male driven structure. So they say that we always think in a balance, but we don't use this. We always look at the final result. If we see, we never, they told me that, I remember Rotterdam Film Festival, she told me that I will not select a film from a woman filmmaker who is less good than a male filmmaker, because for me, at the end of the game, the result is very important. And he says that if you see that there are many Iranian women filmmakers at the festival, it is not because we give priority to the women, it is because we feel that their work is very strong and very good. He, for example, I just had conversation with one of them. He talks about a film with the name of Son, who got awards at Moscow and now is at Rotterdam, and he said to me that it is the first work of a female director, but you could see that the filmmaker is a kind of author, and she has an important things to say. So basically, to my surprise, I didn't see that they treat differently women to men, and this is a kind of concern, or this is kind of issue that I heard a lot, because of many of Iranian filmmakers argue that that festival accepted that film because the filmmaker was a woman. But apparently, and from what I heard from the festival, this is not the case, and they always try to pick good films.
More about the subject, in terms of the subjects, not about the gender of the filmmaker, but my concern is more about in terms of the subject of the film, women subjects.
Yeah, the subject of the film, I think, is more women, because I don't feel that it is something that happens only in relationship to the Iranian cinema. Films about women are becoming very prominent in film festival, and this is also part of, I think, diversity politics. New cinema or new film festivals hope to give more voice to the people who didn't have voice before. So we could see many films that are about women's struggles in their lives, about people of different race, people of different culture, and inclusion. I think this is also because this is the best time if you are people of other culture to want to make film, because every studio right now, especially in Hollywood and US, are wanted to hear voices from different people. And and women, I think here has very important position.
Does that mean that they have a kind of how can I say that, a structure about that? Like in Oscars recently, they said that it has to be like that about the minority, 50% about women's. Does Cannes or Berlin or others, they have these kind of laws about when they want to select?
Based on what I heard, they all wanted to tell me that we don't have this regulation, because I asked them, do you have any kind of regulation, and do you that film should meet these qualities? Then they told me, no, we don't have any of kind of this. For us, what is important is the art. If you feel that it is an authentic, we will pick it. But at the same time, because our mind is shaped by the society in which we live, and I think that diversity politics or gender equality are very prominent in the news. So unconsciously, people pay more attention to this film. I remember when I had a talk with a film programmer at Rotterdam. She told me that she doesn't like to see a film from Iran which shows women are weak. He likes to see films which shows women are strong and have agency in their life. And because she said that I don't like those kind of image of representation of women. And this is very interesting thing for me, because we thought that maybe if we show a film, some directors feel that if they show a film that shows that she lives in kind of patriarchal situation, the festivals will be more inclined to accept it. But apparently this is not the case, and they are trying to be very progressive and in terms of film selection.
Okay, thank you, Amir.
Thank you. And now Dr. Saidi Pune.
Thank you very much, Sadam Amirjan. Merci از صحبت بسیار زیباتون. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions because, as Dr. Tawakkoli mentioned, you have first-hand experience, so it's important for me to know your personal opinion. One is one that you addressed, which is the recent nominations and the Oscar ceremony. Paradoxically, even the non-whites have come and said it was again too white, because, for example, Chadwick Boseman was not selected over Anthony Hopkins. So your take on that, so it's a multiple pronged question, because that's one question I have. The other question is, do you think that Asghar Farhadi merited the 2017 Oscar award, given that he had won it a couple of years before for Separation? And I've also watched Tony Erdmann, which was competing the German movie against it at the time. I thought it was equally beautiful. So I wanted to have your take. And last but not least, what is the name of the article by Jameson that you keep referring to? Thank you very much.
Yes. Thanks for your great question. If I want to start with your second question, and then I'm going to the other. Yeah, I think in 2017 the Oscar was very politicized, and I see this trend as happening from 2016 after the election of Trump, because my real concern and my real issue with the Oscar right now is that it is becoming too much politicized, and sometimes they want to say that we are a very we are very good peoples, and we are doing the best for the humanities, and it appears that they sometimes forget the core or fundamental values that American cinema was defending. The fact that cinema is for entertainment, or cinema is gives the people the possibility to have pleasure for a couple of hours. This makes Oscar or American cinema very different from a film festival like Cannes, or Berlin, which was more interested in kind of intellectual cinema, or Berlin, which was more interested in kind of political cinema. And there was this kind of always opposition between these festivals or award ceremonies, which makes them very interesting to follow. But right now, it seems that all of them are becoming somehow the same. Hollywood or Oscars is not very different right now, and especially the criteria that they have from Sundance or from the other film festivals. So there is no other festivals, if I can say. Everybody looks the same. About the this was my general reflection about the Oscar, and about Anthony Hopkins. This is a very good question, because everybody's thought that they would give the Oscar to that actor, especially because he was died last year, but that didn't happen. Also, there was a consensus that Anthony Hopkins' performance was much better, and I personally feel that his performance was a great performance. But maybe I don't know. Maybe because there is a huge percentage of white people or male white people who are watching Oscars, and if maybe they feel that if they go too much to the extreme, if they and if they give all the prize to the people of color, this might cause some problems in terms of viewership. They have a serious problem with viewership in the recent years, and this year also they have their viewer was almost half. So maybe all of this was a reason behind their decision to give Oscar to him instead of the other one. That's my my reflection on the issue of Asghar Farhadi. That film wasn't my favorite film of Farhadi. I remember I watched Elle and that film at the same time at Cannes, and somehow basically both film, the subject of both film is rape, but are very different in different contexts. And when I came out that day, I said, "Oh, what kind of film Paul Verhoeven make? A very great film, not comparable with Farhadi." And I felt that many people at that moment at Cannes also felt that Farhadi's film wasn't a great film compared to his past. They felt that it's a good film, but not a great film. But Antonio Erdmann was especially very was praised a lot during Cannes. So, but when the Oscar comes at that moment, if you remember, all the awards was somehow given to the film that we didn't anticipate. Even the awards for the best film was given to Moonlight, and they didn't give it to
La La Land.
La La Land. So yeah, there was there was feeling that Oscar that year was too much political and wanted to give good message to Donald Trump and his sanction and his policy about immigrants or people of different context. I feel that it was very political decision that year, and maybe this happened because people also get are under lots of pressure these days because of these social medias. When I'm thinking about social medias and the pressure on me, much more is on the festival organizer these days because of Instagram's news, because of the Twitters, because of the culture that we have that gives too much values to people's opinion, and these impacted the way that you are trying to dealing with when people trying to boycott a company. They would say that if you continue working with that people, we will boycott you. These are creating kind of pressure, and I feel that sometimes they are making decisions in festivals or in ceremonies very difficult. They are making because of this social pressure, especially because of these Instagrams, and everybody is trying to say, and everybody's feels under lots of pressure when he wants to say, and he wants to have a kind of good face at the end. And this, I think, could have good impact on some aspect. Maybe it could create a more just distribution of awards, but I don't know if here justice could be also equated with better in terms of aesthetic choice or not. These are questions that I think still we need time to evaluate because still we are at the beginning. The articles about Jameson, it is a 1970 article. I think it's he's written that article about Jaws and Godfathers. I somehow forgot the names, but if you type it in a Google Scholar, I think, and it's written between 1977 or 1978, he talks about the fact that the commodity cannot only suppress you, the commodity also needs to liberate you. So he wants to argue that every piece of art, even those that produced by capitalist system, cannot always stifle, cannot always suppress your desire. They need also to liberate you. They need also to give you something, a kind of pleasure. And this is kind of the frame of thinking that shaped me a lot in terms of thinking about work of art and their relationship with mode of production.
Okay, so it was I learned a lot from your talk, Amirjan. That was quite interesting. One point that I wanted to mention about Asghar Farhadi's Oscar Award for Salesman was that maybe the Americans became more interested in this film and gave him yet a second Academy Award because of the way he was engaged with the American culture, and more specifically with the play Death of a Salesman. So maybe that layer of that intertextuality layer of the movie became of their interest. Maybe, I am not sure, but that could have had an impact. So I would like to thank everyone for joining us. I would like to thank Dr. Ganjavi for his illuminating talk, and wish you a great evening, night, or if you are in Australia, morning. And we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, and I just want to join everyone to thank our hosts for today's lecture, the York Center for Asian Research, the Department of History, and the Department of Languages, Literature, and Linguistics, and particularly Dr. Shaybani, who hosted today's program. And many thanks to Dr. Amir Ganjavi for the illuminating presentation. Everyone, have a wonderful evening.
Thanks.